Whether you have just left your first preschool teacher meeting and heard about the need to do scissor skills for the first time, or you've been practicing for a while, in today's video, we are going to show you 3 things to avoid when teaching your child scissor skills and 3 things that you should be doing instead. Now, scissor skills are actually really important for the little ears. We often underestimate this, but when we are using scissors, we are basically practicing a lot of refined movements of the hand. Now, some studies suggest that children in grade school, so from grade 1, spend 60 to 70% of their time in school using those fine motor skills. When we are using scissors, our children are learning firstly how to coordinate the movements of these 3 fingers, which are also used in handwriting, in pencil grip. They are also learning to use both hands at the same time, which is a really important skill. Babies start to learn it when they start to crawl, then when your child gets older and starts to ride a bike or climb a ladder. These skills are called bilateral coordination, and they are really important because they give us a sign of how each side of our child's body speaks to the other side. So when a child is learning to cut, they are using both hands at the same time. So they are holding the paper with one hand and cutting with the other. Very important skill. Again, we also have that open and close movement. They're not actually scissors. That's not what they're doing. That's just my fingers. They're actually doing more like this. There's a lot of coordination that goes into that open and close as well. So let's look at what we should be avoiding when we are teaching our children how to use scissor skills. We are on about our 16th try to get this camera angle right, and I hope that you can see my full head and that all of this comes through. So I want to share with you 3 mistakes that I see parents often making when it comes to starting out using scissors, and ways that you can avoid them or things that you should be doing instead. So the first one that I see is parents often starting out with scissors, traditional scissors that look like this, or the scissors that are an assist scissor that have another circle on the back of these. And then they get really finicky with their children about where to put their fingers, and they might be trying to help from behind. They may be putting their children's fingers in the scissors, and it often leads to the child just kind of giving up and not wanting to continue holding the scissors or trying to learn to cut. Often what we see also is that when we do give our child a traditional scissor, you do need to kind of give them some instruction, because they'll often just start doing cutting with 2 hands, and then they're not really managing to lift the paper. So a way that I like to avoid this or skip that step and really just dive into cutting with a really positive start is by using loop scissors. Now, obviously this is an additional expense, but I think you can get them from Amazon for just a couple of dollars. So I'll link some recommendations below for these scissors. The ones that I have here are quite big, so they're actually a little bit harder to cut with. It's better to start with the smaller ones. But these basically are pretty clear to a child on how to use them, and they don't need you to be standing behind your child and kind of dictating about how they should be cutting, because even for a very new cutter. Also, it's important to say here, and I'll link a blog post below that deals with all of the ins and outs of exactly how to really hold a pair of scissors, but often I see people holding in just really strange ways. So when our child does get to the point where they can hold a traditional scissor, what we're wanting is that the thumb is in the top loop, the middle finger is in the bottom loop, and the index finger is here supporting the movement of the scissor. And we always want also, very importantly, that the scissors are lifted off the table, so we're not holding scissors onto the table, and that the child's wrist is turned inwards. So often we see children cutting like this. We want them to learn the pattern, the motor pattern of this movement, where their wrist is turned inwards, and generally there's a little bit of a bend at the wrist as well, but obviously we don't need to worry about that too much. Just that try and direct them that their wrist would go inwards. There is a trick of putting a sticker on here as well to show them that the thumb goes up. But I find if you start off with these and then move to these, generally children have already kind of established a motor pattern and they already kind of understand the movement. So we get less finicky when we move on to how to hold the scissors. So the third mistake that I see parents falling into is jumping straight away to kind of worksheets or activities that are just at a higher level according to the age appropriateness of them. So I want to show you quickly how we would start out with scissor cutting for a younger child. So generally we say you can start introducing scissors around 2 years old or 2.5 years old. And we're wanting that in the beginning you are first tearing. That's like the first thing that we do before we actually introduce scissors. But then at the very beginning, we're wanting our child to just learn the very simple thing of snipping. So just one cut. Then as they progress, as they get older, we are wanting them to learn to then move that scissor forward in the paper. So we're wanting a bit of a longer strip that they would be able to cut. And then when we're getting to around 3.5, we see that they're able to cut a longer line and that they're staying closer to the line. So we generally say about a 15 centimeter line that they would be able to cut. And then only later, when we're getting to like around 4 and 5, we are looking more at those curvy lines that are closer together, like on a worksheet, for example. So let's look at these small lines, or how you could present this to your child. We'll basically do a strip over here. Like this. So your child would only need to snip once. And then you can draw some lines on here and let them just, you can see I'm not holding anything right now because I'm sitting down, but you can just get them to cut on those lines because it should be one snip that they're doing. As they are developing, we'll be able to make this a longer line, like this. That does require that like movement forward with the pen. And then finally, we're going to be able to give them a piece of paper like this where they have to cut a straight line. And I wouldn't fuss too much if it's not exactly on the line. You just want to give them the instruction to try and stay near the line and see how they go with that. And the third thing to avoid is thinking that scissor skills are limited to paper. There are so many things that you could be cutting with scissors, from lettuce when you're making a salad to leaves to make a collage, or you could be making little Play-Doh snakes and feeding one of your children's little toys. This is actually one of my kids' favorite things to do. So you just want to take a bit of Play-Doh and roll it. Again, look at us using all of our fine motor skills. Roll it into a kind of snake. And depending on how advanced your child is in terms of their scissor skills, this may be thinner or wider. And then you just want to give them their scissors so they can cut it. Again, if they are more established in their scissor skills, of course you can be using those traditional skills with the finger holes. And once you have a little piece off, you can just give it to the animal. They love this. And keep going, keep practicing those skills, and no paper is needed and lots of fun is had. Now, scissor skills often go hand in hand with drawing skills. So go and check out the video that's on your screen now. It dives into how to start facilitating pre-writing and drawing skills with 3-year-olds. And we even get to draw a Peppa Pig. So I'll see you over there.